Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and Giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for The King in Giallo, and another unscripted movie review. Earlier, I watched Cat in Heat, and now I just finished Death Falls Lightly. This is another 1972 Giallo that, honestly, in terms of doing research for this movie for the channel, I haven't been able to find the release date for the movie. I saw January 1st, but I think that was just because I don't know why there's no record of it. But this movie seems to have come out in mid 1972 because a lot of the people who worked in other Giallo films for 1972, those films come up as being released beforehand. Regardless, I don't know when this movie came out, but I'm going to be covering it right away for the Forgotten Giallo films for part one for 1972 because I don't know where to put it, so I'll just get it out of the way. But yeah, so real quick, I'll get to the logistical stuff or whatever. This is a 1972 Giallo film. Is it? Directed by Leopoldo Savona, who also wrote it along with Luigi Russo. Pardon me if I get any of these names wrong. And it stars Stelio, Candelli, and Patrizia Viotti, as well as Tom Felleghy and Fernando Cerulli. Okay, so first things first. I found this movie online on the Internet Archives, uploaded by Kelly Colt. Thank you, Kelly. You can go ahead and watch it there. It seems to be the only place online as of now where you can find it. I couldn't find it on YouTube or streaming anywhere else, so thank you. Okay, in a nutshell, the plot of this movie is, and I'll just read this right off of IMDb, but I'll actually go into it. But a man finds his wife brutally murdered. He has no alibi, so is instructed by his lawyer to go into hiding in an abandoned hotel. Strange occurrences start happening immediately. I don't know about immediately, but okay, so I will give my thoughts on this movie. I will hold off on spoilers, but I will give spoilers at the very end because the movie, kind of like the previous movie I covered, did do something really crazy at the end. So I actually do want to talk about it, but I will cut you off so you don't get spoiled if you choose not to. Or you can just watch the movie right now and come back. So I made some notes because there was a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, the first half of this movie is, okay, a lot of people will say that this movie is kind of hard to categorize. Yes, it is a Giallo. Remember, the whole definition of what a Giallo can be is so broad, is so wide, especially for these late 1960s, early 1970s films. This one is kind of hard to label. I will say that there were a number of Giallo films as well as other non-Giallo films, but there was a few Giallo films that I was thinking of as I was watching it. Okay, so first of all, the main guy, I thought he was the bad guy in So Sweet, So Perverse, and then I looked it up and I was totally wrong. I was like, oh, okay, it looks like him though. And but regardless, the movies that the Giallo films that I was reminded of are Devil with Seven Faces, and why for that one is because that's also another Giallo movie where somebody is going into hiding and things don't go as planned. But that's really it in terms of Devil with Seven Faces with Carol Baker. Cold Eyes of Fear, because the what you will find out is when this man and his mistress are going into hiding at this abandoned hotel, weird things are happening. I'll go into more detail later, but the first thing that you're thinking is, okay, either this is like ghost stuff, like paranormal activity tied to the location, or this is these characters manifesting these apparitions as a form of their own guilt. And Cold Eyes of Fear had a little bit of that in it, so I kind of mentioned that movie. The other one is The Night Evelyn Came Out of the Grave, which also does the whole manifestation of guilt. Another one was Double Face, and there were actually, especially in the latter half of this movie, there were 3 instances of scenes from Double Face that I kind of saw in here. I'll actually get back to that one later. And then the non-Giallo movies that I saw in this, and this is funny because this is like way before this, is The Shining and Les Diaboliques. And again, I'll get into that. Okay, so movie starts, this guy, he comes home, it's a first-person POV, walking through the house, goes into the bedroom. You don't see it, but all of a sudden this man is then driving to meet his, it's not his lawyer. It's like I guess it is his lawyer. It's his lawyer or is a judge. Doesn't matter. First thing I will point out was the music. There was this recurring theme that kept playing that was very, oh my God, it reminded me of another movie, but I cannot for the life of me recall what the movie was, but it was just very, very 70s. So yeah, you got this nice song with vocals. I probably played it at the beginning of this video, unless if I had to cut it out because of YouTube. But that would be the song if so, and if not, then you'll just have to watch the movie. He tells him, his lawyer, or the judge, or whatever, that he was out of town, he came home, and his wife was murdered. Her throat was slit. And the judge is asking him, I'm just going to call him the judge for the sake of this, like, when did you return? He's like, recently, like 5:30. And he's like, and you didn't do it? And he's like, I didn't do it. Like, but I don't have an alibi. And you're kind of wondering, okay, why? There's immediately some suspicious stuff with this guy. But okay, so he is instructed to go into hiding, and he takes his mistress with him. And we have these scenes, and this is the first half of this movie, I will say, is very different from the second half of the movie, until you get to the finale, until you get to the final scene. But the first half is this kind of crime thriller of like, I didn't do it, I need to get away, what's going to happen? And there's a scene with the judge and this other man who's played by Tom Felleghy, and I don't recall exactly what his connection is, but these guys have a talk, and Tom Felleghy's the guy who drops him off at the hotel, which is supposed to be abandoned, and he talks to the judge in this really short scene where he's out playing tennis, and he calls him over, and he's like, have you read the papers? And he's like, I don't read the papers until the evening. Why? What's going on? And he's like, oh, the police are after Giorgio. And the judge tells him they better not find him, or else you'll wish you're dead. And so now we're getting this, okay. We're getting a little bit more information that there's something illegal going on. Why else would this man who, his fate be tied to this judge, these other people? It's clear that something's going on. Okay. Now let me mention this. There was a handful of times in the movie, at least 4 times, there could have been more, but where there's just a random voiceover. And so, for example, Giorgio goes to, the judge, and he's asking for help. He's like, you gotta help me. You gotta do something. You gotta help me. And he's like, let me make a call. And as he's making a call, he's just like,
Carogna. Così si tratta un amico dell'amici, eh? Del rovino io a te. Te distruggo.
It was so funny because it was clearly his voice, but he wasn't speaking. And I don't think the movie needed to do it, but it was so funny. And then it happened again later. Someone else did it. And then it happened again. And then also, when the police are investigating the murder, this made me crack. I had to write this down because I had to talk about this. I think it's so funny. I don't know if this is a real thing. I assume this must be real, but I've only ever seen this in movies where they're going through the house where the guy's wife was killed, and there's a picture of Giorgio like on the nightstand, and it's like, to my beautiful wife. And I'm like, did people actually do this? Did people actually like take pictures of themselves like and write like, to my sweet wife? Like, it's something I've only ever seen in movies, and it's always so funny to me. I always feel like it says a lot about the characters, and it, like I said, it's got to be rooted in reality to some degree. And then it's funny because then he's like checking, the crime scene, and he's like, I don't see any semen on the bed, and he's like touching everything with his bare hands. Where I'm like, you might want to put on some gloves first of all because of forensics. Secondly, if there is semen on the bed, why would you want to be touching it? Whatever. So, okay, then let me mention this real quick. Again, these are all in the little notes, things I wanted to talk about. The soundtrack is pretty good. Let me just give a shout out to the composer, Coriolano Gori, or as Lalo Gori. I don't know why he changed his name. It's not really a better change, but okay. But yeah, it shifted from being like very acid rock, prog rock, to then okay. I really liked the rock stuff. Like I said, I'm not sure if this is acid rock or prog rock, probably more prog rock. But I really liked it. And then that one song that kept coming back with the vocals was really good. Sunday in Neon Lights, written by Lalo Gori, performed by Mock Sigis Porter Ensemble. Okay, so like all that music was good, and then there was some really good creepy music, and then we got this odd music. I don't know if it was one track, but it played a lot, and it had a jaw harp as like the main instrument going through it. And all of these scenes with this jaw harp, it would be like dialogue heavy scenes that were supposed to be paying attention, like listening. And it would always be like 30 seconds to a minute in. All of a sudden, I'm just like, the fuck is that? I'm like, why are you using a jaw harp? It's not a terrible instrument, but you kind of need, I don't know, you kind of need to know when to use it. And you probably shouldn't be using it when people are talking. Like when I hear a jaw harp, also called a Jew harp, I think of like spaghetti westerns, but I don't recall ever watching a movie where a spaghetti western where these guys are talking and you just hear just going in the background like the whole time. So that was kind of annoying. That was the one thing about the soundtrack that I was like, dude, cut that. Like the track was fine if they cut out the jaw harp or if they just used it less so. Anyways, that's just me being nitpicky. Something else I will also say about the first half of this movie was there was a lot of sex, like a lot of sex and nudity. Yeah, there was like a pretty graphic and extended sex scene where they're watching an adult movie and they're making love. Giorgio and his mistress. It's just like, okay, not a problem. Okay, so the first half, yes, is this guy in hiding who's clearly a criminal. Oh yeah, and then we get to about the 40-minute mark or so, and we reveal what's going on, why this guy has these ties to a judge, and why he can't confess, and why he doesn't have an alibi. He's a drug runner, and the profits of the enterprise that he's involved in go to the judge, I think, and they fund political activities. It was something like that. And so if he goes down, if he goes down, he's taking everybody down type of thing. And so the judge is really needs to either keep him safe or he needs him to confess. And one of the things that he says to Savara, who's Tom Felleghy, is, I don't know if he did it or not, but if he can confess, that would be great, but there's no way he's gonna like go down without taking us down, you know. Okay, so that's like the first half, and then it's them in the hotel, and then things kind of start going bump in the night, and then this is where the movie really becomes a different movie. And this is where you get a lot of the, you know, paranormal, supernatural stuff. I made this note. I said, feels like a Gothic movie minus the setting. So if this was in a castle, obviously, it would feel more Gothic. If this was in a more 19th century rundown place, it would feel more Gothic. It's not. The setting that they're in is, for the time, fairly modern, so it's a little bit of Gothic without actually leaning into the aesthetic, and the aesthetics in Gothic are a really big part. So I put that note in there because for all intents and purposes, it feels like it's Gothic, but it's not. And this goes to another one of the things I was going to say then for one of the things that feels like double face. There's a few parts in the movie where the characters are then walking around this hotel with a candle, and it's like a little spotlight on them. And I will always remember Double Face was like the first Giallo movie that I saw, one of the first movies I saw that did this trick, and it's so bad. And every time you see it, it's so obvious, and it's really kind of comes down to it's like when they throw a mannequin out a window. It's like, I know it's fake, but how believable is this instance? And, you know, because it's clear that it's always like a spotlight that they're kind of like aiming at them. You can tell that it's literally being manipulated by someone, and it's trying to stay on them, and there's like shadows right behind them where there shouldn't be shadows unless the light was coming from, you know, another source. And so that was immediately, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Double Face. And then one of the first weird things that happens is Giorgio goes downstairs, and there's like a birthday party. There's nobody there, but everything is staged and prepared like there was a birthday party. And then there's like a weird mannequin or something there. And then somebody sneaks into the bedroom. You're seeing like a first person POV of that, and Liz screams and Giorgio runs up there. And again, this actually reminded me of, again, So Sweet, So Perverse, where the guy sneaks into the bedroom and Giorgio comes in there and he's like, what's wrong? And she's like, there's somebody in here. And instead of investigating this, he's just like, no, you're just hysterical. You're just crazy. Like, there's nobody here. And she's like, there was somebody just here. And he's like, no. It's just the shadows. Dude, at least look. Like, if I understand, you gotta establish control of the situation, but it's like, if there really is someone there, they're gonna have the jump on you. They're gonna get away. I don't know, whatever. But anyways, then he leaves and he ends up I think he ends up hearing something, or he's following someone, and they kind of get away or whatever. It just kind of goes away. And then he finds this older woman, a dead older woman with like her throat cut. And if I recall, we never saw his wife. So immediately we're thinking, is that his wife? Like, is that a hallucination of his wife? And then all of a sudden she transforms, and like how Giallo movies will do, where all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden it's like a younger woman, and then it's the same older woman. Oh, and then it's the younger woman. And then so you're thinking, okay, so is the younger one his wife? Is the older one someone else? And at this point I'm thinking, okay, if this is paranormal, then maybe there is, like The Shining, this place has a memory, and they're experiencing the memory of this place. A horrible murder happened here and they're seeing it. Or maybe this is a projection of guilt. Maybe through the drug trade that Giorgio does, maybe this is someone who somehow died, with the drugs or whatever. Not sure exactly, but I'm just thinking, okay, like, what could this be? And then all of a sudden someone sneaks up behind Giorgio and like hits him on the head, which was really funny. And then you find out it's this like older guy, and he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot there were people staying here. I'm the owner of the hotel. Okay. Again, kind of shining-y. And he's like, I killed my wife. I need you to help me. Okay. So this really is reminding me of The Shining. The whole, when Jack Torrance starts going off the deep end and he's talking to the former caretaker, and, yeah, so he's asking for help to remove the body, and they grab this giant like chest and they put the body in the chest. And now I'm thinking, okay, I said this a lot for the 60s Giallo films I covered, where whenever someone dies and the whole movie is trying to play with the idea of, is this person really dead? Are they not dead? And it's all done in those movies to make the protagonist question reality and kind of go crazy. Like Libido is a good example of this. I always say that they're doing the Les Diaboliques thing, French film. In that movie, that's, it's two women kill this guy, and then they like remove the body from the school, I think, in this giant chest thing. Then, things start going weird. But this is the first time that somebody actually put the body in the chest. I mean, you do see that in Naked You Die, but that's not done in the same way that this is being done. Whatever. Anyway, so that goes on, and I'm like, okay, and they wheel the body out, and they pass by these like hippies talking about revolution and if Jesus was an anarchist or whatever, and then they pass the cop, and he asks for a light. He gives him a light, and he's like, oh, are you moving? Okay, first off, it's very obvious that there's a body in this thing. Like, they have it on like a wagon, kind of like a wheelbarrow type thing, where you pick up the back and you walk it. It looks like in medieval movies when there's like the Black Plague and you'd be carting off the dead in the back of a wagon. It looks exactly like that. So he's like, oh, are you moving? And the hotel owner is like, no, we're grave robbers. And he's just like, well, on your way then. And then that's when we have one of those moments where like the cop has a narration to himself.
Pure de notte incontri quelli che te piano per culo.
Then they bury the body, and then all of a sudden like this younger woman is there with the hotel owner. And then Giorgio is back in the hotel, and he's talking to Liz, and they're talking about the weird things that they're experiencing, and how she saw, she's like, wait, you're crazy. And then she sees something, and it's this younger woman. And then Giorgio goes and talks to her, and the woman claims, this new woman now claims she's the daughter of the hotel owner. And then we get this scene. Okay, so I will be honest. This is about an hour into the movie, an hour and 5 minutes into the movie. And at this point, for me, the concept has started to kind of play itself out. I'm kind of like, okay, I thought this was an interesting idea on paper, but right now it's kind of like, I start like checking the time. Well, more like looking at my phone. I kind of start checking the time. Like, okay, so there's like 20 minutes left. Okay. And it's not, again, it's not that I think the movie was bad. It was just the first half was way more engaging in terms of, oh, what's going to happen. And at this point, it's now been like 20 minutes of interacting with ghosts or, you know, these apparitions, and it's not really going anywhere. We're not learning anything new about the character. Like I said, if this is a manifestation of guilt that both these characters are experiencing, then it could reveal a lot of their history, their backstory, and you know, what is plaguing them. But it kind of seems like it's more of this weird, like I said with The Shining, it's the memory of this location, and you're like, okay, but it's not really, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And then another thought I had was, at this point we haven't seen the judge, we haven't seen Tom Felleghy's character, and I'm wondering, okay, because if it was cutting back to them, I'd be feeling a little bit more invested, because I would be, you know, the movie would be going back to that plot, which that is a spinning plate, but we haven't spent any time with that particular plot. And so I'm wondering, okay, is the movie trying to make us forget about that other subplot that's going on? And if so, is all of this tied into that? Because here's the thing, these ghostly things that we've seen, they haven't really been that ghostly. It's not like someone is appearing and then they're disappearing, or they're walking through a wall. It kind of feels like it's people that are there. And now that would be weird, but I am kind of thinking, okay, I'm having the thought that it's like, there's something more to this, and it's not supernatural. Anyways, moving on, there was this great scene where Giorgio goes in, he's talking to this woman who's, I think she's in a bathtub, and behind her, there's, it kind of looks like a clothes rack. It's some hanging like bar being held up, and there's a monkey, like a little, like, I don't know what the monkey is, but it's just hanging there, and I'm so distracted by this monkey that I cannot pay attention to what they're saying. And I'm just looking like, why? Why the monkey? And then it took me about a minute or so to realize, because this monkey's just kind of like, you know, hanging, and then he'll climb back up and he's doing his own thing. And it took me a while to realize, oh my God, this monkey is not just like playing around. Like, he's actually like, they put like a little belt around him, and that's what's hanging. So that little belt thing is tied to the crossbar, and the monkey is just kind of like, like just kind of like hanging, and he's trying to get up, and he keeps like letting go. And so I was like, okay, that's, you know, that's I'm sure that's somebody's monkey, and, you know, he got fed a lot of treats or whatever, but I'm like, okay, a lot of people are gonna have a problem with that, because they're literally like tormenting a monkey. But I then was able to see the metaphor, like, oh, this is Giorgio right now. He's you know, I can't think of how to say this poetically, but it's like, yes, he's being suspended, he's being toyed with, he's being puppeted or hung around. And so Giorgio then also keeps seeing like cadaver with like the throat slit. And again, that was kind of reminding me of Double Face, because he keeps seeing memories of keeps seeing these clips of his wife, or is this his wife type person. And then there was a scene where all of a sudden Giorgio is like, I think he's in like an attic or something, and someone's got like a spotlight on him, or kind of, I don't know, and someone's attacking him, and it's just like in Double Face. Long story short, I won't spoil the movie right now. Things are going crazy, and so I'll just say this. It's a very, very interesting, very unique Giallo film. I would say go ahead and check it out if you are curious to watch it. And now I will actually spoil what happens, because I have to talk about this. So I think Giorgio ends up killing one of the like the women that he keeps seeing, the daughter or someone. I'm sorry, they threw a lot at me. I kind of forget. And like I said, at this point I was kind of like, come on. And all of a sudden we find out that this whole thing was a staged operation. All of these people, these ghosts, were all paid actors that were brought here to make Giorgio kind of go crazy and confess to the murder. I like never really thought it was going to actually go that route, but I was definitely like, okay, something tells me this is not paranormal, because it's just not, it's not leaning fully into the paranormal. Like, for example, Libido, there is a bunch of stuff where you kind of question, is that like ghostly or no? And the night Evelyn came out of the grave, it really does lean more so into that. But again, you're like, okay, but this character's crazy. Giorgio, you never really think, in my opinion, you never really think he's crazy. At least I didn't think so. So all the stuff with the guilt manifestation, it kind of felt like there was more to it. I don't know how else to put it. So when we had this reveal, I did feel kind of like I called it, but I just didn't think in terms of the specifics, the particulars, that this is what was going on. And they pull him out, and they try to arrest him for the murder of his wife, but he still is like, I did not kill her. And you find out that Liz was in on this whole thing, and at one point Tom Felleghy is going to go talk to her, and she turns around and attacks him with a razor, which was funny because she turns around and swipes once, and he somehow has a cut here, he's got blood here, and he's holding his throat, like, so she did a triple tap somehow with one hit. She kills him, and now Liz is getting brought out because she actually, just killed this guy. And she stops and she tells Giorgio, I'm so sorry. I murdered your wife because I was obsessed with you, like, returning to her. And then, and now that that's all done, it's basically like, oh, okay, fine. Like, he's off scot-free. So we don't have to worry about any of this other stuff that happened. So he goes out, he gets into the car with the judge, and it's like everything is all good now because he's not going to get arrested. They found out that it was Liz. Clearly she did that, and then this whole thing happened, and she kind of got roped in. Actually, I don't think she wasn't a part of the whole thing. She got swept up in the hysteria of what was going on, just like Giorgio. Anyways, yes. So that was a very, very interesting reveal. I did like that. It did save the movie for me. And not that the movie was bad, but like I said, the last half of the movie really was starting to drag. But the movie is short. It's only an hour and 25 minutes. But certainly that concept, it was really like, okay, this is starting to get a little like, I think it's already done. Like, I think you've played this concept through to the end, and now it's just kind of like more padding, but it's fine. All in all, I liked the first half of the movie really well. That finale was pretty crazy. It's a great movie. Check it out. I don't know what else to say, but yeah, this was a fun one. It would be cool if this got a Arrow or Vinegar Syndrome release. Other than that, yep. So thank you for watching, and I've got one more, which is Night of the Scorpion, and guess where else I'll be watching that. Anyways, so yep. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.
A mia moglie con affetto.